The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of destiny and purpose. It flows through Jedi and Sith, through the countless trillions living under the Empire's iron fist, through the brave souls fighting for the rebellion. The Force is constant, eternal, and above all else, serious. Which is why the universe was entirely unprepared for Wade Wilson. The twin suns of Tatooine beat down mercilessly on the Dune Sea, baking the sand into a shimmering haze of heat. Jawas picked through the wreckage of a crashed moisture vaporator, chittering amongst themselves about salvage values. A patrol of Gamorrean guards trudged along the perimeter of Jabba's palace, sweating profusely in the oppressive heat and questioning their life choices. It was a normal day on the Outer Rim's most lawless world. Then reality hiccuped. A swirling vortex of red and black energy tore open in the sky above the palace, crackling with dimensional instability that no hyperspace engine had ever produced. The Gamorreans looked up, piggy eyes widening in confusion. Through the portal tumbled a figure in red and black, screaming at the top of his lungs. "Cable, you magnificent bastard, your teleporter is broken aga." The figure hit the sand with a bone-crunching impact that sent up a plume of dust. The portal snapped shut with a sound like reality sighing in relief. For a moment, nothing moved. The Gamorreans approached cautiously, raising their axes. One poked the fallen figure with a staff. "Ow, rude." The figure sat up abruptly, causing the guards to jump back. "Do you guys have any idea how much interdimensional travel sucks? It's like being flushed down a cosmic toilet made of math and bad special effects." Wade Wilson, the merc with a mouth, stood and brushed sand off his suit. He looked around, taking in the desert, the alien palace, and the very confused pigmen pointing weapons at him. His mask's white eye patches widened comically. "Okay, Wade, assessment time. Desert planet? Check. Weird aliens? Check. Is that a sail barge in the distance? Are those—" Wait. He tilted his head, studying the Gamorreans more carefully. "You guys look like you ate the entire Lord of the Rings cast, and then got lost on the way to a furry convention." The Gamorreans grunted aggressively, clearly not appreciating the commentary. One grabbed Deadpool by the arm, or tried to. Wade's hand shot out, and suddenly the guard was on his back in the sand, Deadpool's katana pressed gently against his throat. "Easy there, Porky. I just got here, and already you're getting handsy. At least buy me dinner first. Does this planet have chimichangas? Please tell me someone in this galaxy has invented chimichangas." The other guards surrounded him, and Wade sighed dramatically. "Fine, fine. Take me to your leader. But if he's another space tyrant who wants to lecture me about destiny and prophecy, I'm going to be really disappointed." The Gamorreans marched him toward the palace, and as a massive metal door ground open, Wade Wilson got his first real look at the Star Wars galaxy. The throne room was dimly lit, filled with the dregs of the galactic underworld, smugglers, bounty hunters, dancing girls, and one particularly large slug-like creature on a dais, surrounded by what could only be described as a criminal court. Jabba the Hutt's eyes fixed on the strange red-clad warrior being dragged before him. The crime lord rumbled something in Huttese, a language that sounded like gargling with gravel. The protocol droid beside Jabba, a golden humanoid that looked vaguely familiar, translated nervously. "His Excellency wishes to know who you are and why you dare trespass on his territory." Wade looked at the droid, then at Jabba, then back at the droid. He slowly raised one finger. "Okay, I'm going to need everyone to hold on for just a second." He turned to face where the palace wall would be if he could see through it, which he couldn't. But that had never stopped him before. "Are you guys seeing this? Because I'm seeing this. And if I'm seeing what I think I'm seeing, then we've got a situation." The assembled criminals stared at him in confusion. The protocol droid tilted his head. "Sir, I don't understand. To whom are you speaking?" "To them." Wade gestured wildly at nothing. "The audience. The people watching this. Because unless I've finally lost what's left of my already questionable sanity, which, fair point, totally possible, I'm in Star Wars. Star Wars." He spun back to Jabba. "You're Jabba the Hutt. And you're C-3PO. And that means somewhere in this galaxy is, oh man, this is either the best day ever, or I'm in a coma and having the weirdest dream. Jabba rumbled something that sounded annoyed. C-3PO translated. His Excellency says you are clearly mad and wishes to know if you have any credits or valuables before he feeds you to the rancor. Rancor. Wade clapped his hands together. You guys have the rancor. Can I see it? Is it practical effects or CGI? Wait, no, dumb question. Everything here looks real. He paused. Which means, oh, this is going to be fun. One of the guards shoved him forward, and Wade let himself stumble dramatically before catching himself. He unsheathed both katanas in a fluid motion that made several bounty hunters reach for their weapons. The room tensed. Relax, folks. I'm not here to cause trouble. Wade spun the blades in an impressive flourish before sheathing them again. I'm a professional. Merc for hire. Killer for credits. And from the looks of this place, business is booming. So how about instead of feeding me to your pet monster, you give me a job? Jabba's laugh was a deep, rolling sound that shook the room. He spoke again, and C-3PO translated with what might have been relief. His Excellency is amused by your boldness. He says if you can prove yourself useful, he may have work for you. There are many who owe him debts, many who need persuading. Wade bowed with exaggerated flourish. Jabba, baby, you just hired the best worst decision you'll ever make. Where do I sign? Do you guys have contracts here, or is it all handshake deals? Because I gotta tell you, shaking hands with a slug sounds like a sensory nightmare. From the shadows, near the back of the throne room, a figure in Mandalorian armor watched this exchange with growing interest. Boba Fett had seen many strange things in his career as the galaxy's most feared bounty hunter, but never someone quite like this. The way the stranger moved suggested serious combat training. The way he talked suggested serious brain damage. Either way, Fett decided, this was someone to watch carefully. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. As Wade Wilson settled into his new reality, one filled with aliens, blasters, and a disappointing lack of chimichangas, the galaxy was about to learn that some forces were beyond the understanding of even the most powerful Sith Lords. Some forces couldn't be reasoned with, couldn't be killed, and absolutely refused to take anything seriously. The merc with a mouth had arrived in a galaxy far, far away, and nothing would ever be quite the same. Jabba's first assignment was simple: collect a debt from a Rodian spice smuggler who'd been avoiding payment for 3 months. The smuggler operated out of Mos Eisley, and Jabba wanted him brought back alive, preferably scared enough to serve as an example to others who might consider welching on their obligations. Wade accepted the job with enthusiasm, mostly because it got him out of the palace and gave him a chance to explore this bizarre new reality he'd found himself in. Jabba provided him with a speeder bike and coordinates. He did not provide instructions on how to operate the speeder bike, which led to Wade crashing it into a sandcrawler within the first 5 minutes. Okay, so repulsor lift technology is apparently not idiot-proof, Wade muttered, climbing out of the wreckage while Jawa screamed at him in their high-pitched language. My bad, little dudes. Put it on Jabba's tab. He continued on foot, trudging through the desert until the sprawling settlement of Mos Eisley appeared on the horizon. The spaceport was exactly as he remembered from the movies, a wretched hive of scum and villainy, all sand-colored buildings and dangerous-looking characters. The only difference was that now it smelled, like really smelled. Sweat, fuel, alien body odor, and something that might have been rotting bantha. Note to self, Wade said to the air, space doesn't actually smell like nothing. Space smells terrible. A patrol of stormtroopers marched past, their white armor gleaming in the harsh sunlight. Wade stopped dead in his tracks, watching them go. His hand twitched toward his katana, then relaxed. Easy, Wade. They haven't done anything yet. Plus, killing Imperial soldiers on day one seems like poor career planning. He paused. Then again, they're basically space Nazis, so moral ambiguity meter is reading pretty low on caring about their feelings. He shook his head and continued into the city, following the coordinates to a rundown cantina on the outskirts of town. Not the cantina. This was smaller, dingier, with fewer patrons and more desperation in the air. Perfect place for someone hiding from debts. The Rodian was exactly where Jabba's intelligence said he'd be, sitting in a back corner nursing something blue, and probably alcoholic. Wade slid into the seat across from him, causing the alien to jump. "Gonna top P-Donkey," the Rodian squeaked, which Wade's universal translator, which he definitely didn't have, failed to interpret. "Yeah, I don't speak bug person," Wade said cheerfully. "But I'm gonna go out on a limb, and guess you know why I'm here. Jabba wants his money. Or you. Preferably both, but I'm flexible on the details." The Rodian's hand moved toward a blaster on his hip. Wade's hand was already there, pressing the alien's fingers away from the weapon with surprising gentleness. "Let's not do the whole shooting thing. I just got this suit cleaned." Wade leaned back, crossing his arms. "Look, I get it. You're in debt, you're scared, you thought you could hide out here until everyone forgot about you. But here's the thing about Jabba. He's got a really good memory. And also he's a giant slug, which is that's gotta be rough for his self-esteem." The Rodian stared at him, antennae twitching in confusion. "Right. So here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna come with me back to the palace, nice and quiet. Maybe Jabba's in a good mood. Maybe he lets you work off the debt. Maybe he feeds you to the rancor. Honestly, it's 50-50. But running." Wade shook his head. "Running just makes it worse, my green friend." "I cannot go back," the Rodian said suddenly, in heavily accented basic. "He will kill me. Please, I have family." "Oh no," Wade groaned. "Don't do the family thing. That's emotional manipulation, and it's super effective." He drummed his fingers on the table. "Okay, real talk. How much do you owe?" 15,000 credits. Wade whistled. "That's a lot of space bucks. What did you do, lose a shipment?" "The Empire seized it. My ship, my cargo, everything. They said it was contraband. I have nothing left to pay with." And there it was, the complication that made everything messier. The Empire had screwed this guy over, and now Jabba wanted blood for money the Rodian didn't have through no fault of his own. Classic catch, 22. Wade sat back, thinking. In his own universe, this would be simple. Beat up the bad guys, save the underdog, crack some jokes, maybe break the fourth wall a few times. But this wasn't his universe. This was Star Wars, where the bad guys had Death Stars and the good guys were barely hanging on. Where getting involved meant picking sides in a galactic civil war he'd only ever watched from the safety of a movie theater. "Okay, here's what we're gonna do," Wade said finally. "You're gonna give me something valuable as collateral, a ship code, intel on Imperial movements, whatever you've got. I take that back to Jabba. Tell him you're working on getting the credits together. That buys you time. Maybe a month, maybe more if I talk fast." The Rodian's eyes widened. "You would do this?" "Why?" "Because I'm having a weird day, and making reasonable life choices isn't really my brand." Wade stood up. "Plus, the Empire thing bugs me. Nobody likes the Empire. They're like space HOA presidents with unlimited military funding." Before the Rodian could respond, the cantina door burst open. 3 stormtroopers entered, their armor somehow looking even more intimidating in the cramped space. Behind them walked an officer in a gray uniform, his face sharp with bureaucratic cruelty. "Imperial inspection," the officer announced. "Everyone remain seated. We're looking for smugglers and rebel sympathizers." Wade watched them start checking IDs, moving table by table. The Rodian beside him had gone rigid with fear. "I have no papers," he whispered. "They will arrest me. Or worse." "Worse than arrest? What? Do they have space jail that's worse than regular jail?" Wade paused. "Actually, don't answer that. Space jail probably does suck worse." The stormtroopers were 3 tables away. Wade's mind raced through options. He could fight. He was confident he could take 3 stormtroopers and an officer. But that would blow any chance of staying under the radar. It would also definitely get back to Jabba that his new hire was starting fights with the Empire on day 1. Then, again, when had staying under the radar ever been Wade style? "Hey, bug eye," Wade whispered. "When I start the distraction, you run. Back exit, now." "What are you?" Wade stood up abruptly, waving his arms. Officers, thank the Force you're here. I need to report a crime. Every head in the cantina turned. The Imperial officer looked annoyed. Sit down, citizen. We'll get to you. No, you don't understand. This is urgent. Wade rushed forward, putting himself between the stormtroopers and the Rodian's table. I saw someone, and I'm not proud of this, it's very traumatic. I saw someone with a really bad haircut. Like, tragedy level bad. I think it might be a violation of Imperial aesthetic standards. The officer's expression shifted from annoyed to dangerously calm. Are you mocking the Empire? Mocking? No, I'm reporting. There's a difference. Wade gestured wildly. See, I'm new here. Like, really new, just got into town, and I want to make sure I'm following all the rules. You guys have rules about haircuts, right? Because if not, you really should. Some of the styles I've seen today are crimes against follicles. Behind him, Wade heard the subtle scrape of a chair. The Rodian was moving. One of the stormtroopers raised his blaster. Sir, should we detain him? The officer studied Wade with cold eyes. Identify yourself. I'm Wade. Just Wade. I work for Jabba the Hutt. You know the big slug guy? I'm new in the bounty hunting business. Trying to make a name for myself. Build a reputation. Maybe get a cool nickname like the Red Menace or Captain Annoying. Jabba's employee? The officer's tone shifted slightly. Even the Empire knew better than to unnecessarily antagonize the Hutts. They controlled too much of the Outer Rim's criminal infrastructure, and sometimes that infrastructure was useful. What are you doing here? Job interview. Wade said brightly. Trying to recruit talent. You know how it is. Finding good help is so hard these days. The stormtrooper's blaster was still raised. Wade could see his own reflection in the white helmet, distorted and red. His hand inched toward his katana. Stand down, the officer said finally. He looked at Wade with disgust. Get out of my sight, and tell Jabba to keep his freaks on a shorter leash. Wade gave an exaggerated salute. Will do, boss man. May the Force be with you and all that jazz. He backed out of the cantina, keeping his eyes on the stormtroopers until he was through the door. Outside, the Rodian was waiting in the shadow of a nearby building, trembling. You saved me. Why? Wade shrugged. Because those guys are jerks, and you seem like you're having a worse day than me. He pulled out a small communicator, looted from a guard back at the palace, and tossed it to the Rodian. Stay low. Find a way to get credits. When you have them, contact this frequency. I'll work something out with Jabba. I don't understand. You work for Jabba. Why help me? Because, Wade said, starting to walk away, I'm starting to think this galaxy could use a little more chaos. And who better to deliver it than a guy who literally cannot die? He left the Rodian staring after him, confused and grateful, and headed back toward the desert. He had to report to Jabba that the target had escaped, a lie he'd sell with enough confidence that the Hutt might actually buy it. As he walked, Wade talked to the empty air. So, quick question for the audience at home. Am I the good guy here? Because I'm helping criminals and lying to other criminals, which feels morally ambiguous at best. But the Empire are definitely the bad guys, right? Even here? Please tell me I didn't just help someone who kicks puppies. Do they have puppies in space? A speeder bike zoomed past, kicking up sand, and Wade sighed. This is going to be way more complicated than I thought. Jabba did not buy the lie. The Hutt's massive eyes narrowed as Wade delivered his report, explaining how the Rodian had somehow escaped during an Imperial inspection. And definitely not because I let him go on purpose. See, 3PO's translation made Jabba's displeasure abundantly clear. His Excellency says you are either incompetent or a liar, the droid said nervously. He is debating which is worse. Wade spread his hands innocently. Look, Jabba my man, can I call you Jabba? I'm calling you Jabba. The Empire showed up and things got complicated. You want me to go pick a fight with stormtroopers on my first day? Because I will, but that seems like it would draw attention nobody wants. Jabba rumbled something that sounded like grudging agreement. The Empire was bad for business when they paid too much attention to Tatooine's criminal enterprises. However, C-3PO continued. His Excellency says you will have another chance to prove yourself. There is a bounty hunter arriving tomorrow to discuss a contract. If you can impress him, Jabba will consider keeping you in his employment. A bounty hunter? Like a real one? Wade perked up. Is it? Please say it's who I think it is. Please, please, please. The answer came the next afternoon when Slave I descended from the sky, its distinctive silhouette unmistakable against the binary sunset. Wade watched from the palace's upper balcony as the ship landed, its engines kicking up massive clouds of sand. "Oh my God," Wade whispered. "It's happening. It's actually happening." The boarding ramp lowered and Boba Fett emerged. The Mandalorian armor was exactly as Wade remembered, green and battered, covered in dents and scorch marks that told stories of 1,000 jobs. The helmet's T-shaped visor swept the landing area, checking for threats with professional efficiency. Wade was vibrating with excitement. "Okay, Wade, play cool. Don't fanboy. You're a professional mercenary, not a Comic-Con attendee. Just be cool." He was not cool. The moment Boba Fett entered the throne room, Wade jumped down from the upper level, a 20-foot drop that should have shattered both his legs. He landed in a superhero crouch, healing factor already dealing with the fractured ankles, and popped up grinning. "Boba Fett." Wade shouted, pointing dramatically. The Boba Fett, the most feared bounty hunter in the galaxy. The guy who survived the Sarlacc pit. Well, spoiler alert on that last one, but still. The throne room went silent. Every smuggler, bounty hunter, and criminal stopped what they were doing to stare at the insane man in red who'd just face-planted into the floor and somehow walked it off. Boba Fett's hand moved to his blaster with practice speed. "Who are you?" "Wade Wilson, but you can call me Deadpool. Or don't. I'm not picky about names. What I am picky about is getting to meet living legends. And buddy, you are legendary." Wade walked forward, completely ignoring the weapon pointed at his chest. The Kamino cloning facilities, Jango Fett's son, working for Vader himself. "Your resume is insane." "Do you have a resume? Do bounty hunters do resumes in this galaxy? Or is it all word of mouth?" Fett's helmet tilted slightly, analyzing this strange, new threat. Wade could practically hear the calculations running behind that visor. Threat assessment, combat capabilities, sanity level. "You know things you shouldn't," Fett said carefully. "How?" "Oh, that's a fun story involving dimensional travel, a broken teleporter, and Cable being terrible with technology." Wade waved dismissively. "The point is, I'm here now, and I'm working for Jabba. Which apparently means we're co-workers. Isn't that great?" "I work for myself," Fett corrected coldly. "Jabba hires me for specific contracts. There's a difference." Right. Independent contractor versus employee. Different tax brackets, I get it." Wade leaned closer, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "But between you and me, how do you deal with the helmet smell?" "Because I wear a mask, and even with the best materials, after a few hours of combat it gets rank." "Do you have some kind of space Febreze situation going on?" Fett stared at him. It was impossible to read his expression behind the helmet, but Wade had a feeling it was somewhere between confused and annoyed. Jabba rumbled something, and C-3PO translated. "His Excellency wishes Boba Fett to evaluate the new hire's combat skills. He suggests a demonstration." Wade's eyes lit up behind his mask. "Are you serious? We're gonna fight? This is the best day ever." "Well, except for that time I fought Wolverine in an adamantium factory. But this is a close second." Fett holstered his blaster. "I don't fight for entertainment." "Oh, come on." Wade groaned. "Don't be like that. You're telling me you're not even a little curious? I fell from orbit, healed from broken ankles in 30 seconds, and I know things about you I shouldn't. That doesn't make you want to test me even a little bit." The helmet tilted again, and Wade knew he'd found the hook. Boba Fett was professional, but he was also curious. Someone who genuinely confused him was rare in his line of work. "Non-lethal," Fett said finally. "First blood or submission?" "Ah, you do care." Wade drew his katanas with a flourish. "Don't worry, I'll try not to damage the armor. That's genuine Mandalorian Beskar. right? Super rare, super valuable. Probably a pain to repair. The crowd backed away, forming a rough circle. Jabba leaned forward on his dais, clearly interested. This was the kind of entertainment he appreciated. Violence with high stakes and unpredictable outcomes. Fett moved first, which surprised exactly no one who knew his reputation. A wrist-mounted grappling cable shot toward Wade, aimed at entangling his arms. Wade twisted sideways, the cable whipping past his ribs, and closed the distance with frightening speed. His katana came down in an arc that would have split most opponents in half. Fett raised his forearm, and the blade rang against Beskar armor with a shower of sparks. The Mandalorian used the momentum to pivot, driving a knee toward Wade's gut. Wade took the hit, mostly because dodging would have been less fun, and felt something crack. Probably a rib. The healing factor was already working, knitting bone and tissue even as he stumbled back. "Oh, you're strong," Wade said appreciatively. "That's gonna bruise." "Well, it would bruise if I could bruise." "Do you work out? Is there a Mandalorian gym routine? Please tell me there's a training montage involved." Fett didn't waste breath on responses. He fired his jetpack, launching himself into the air and raining blaster bolts down from above. Wade dove and rolled, his katanas a blur as he actually deflected 2 bolts back toward their source. The deflected shots hit Fett's armor, absorbed by the Beskar, but forcing him to adjust his flight pattern. "Huh. Bet you weren't expecting that." Wade called up. "Pro tip. I've fought ninjas with magic, and ninjas from the future. Your shooting is great, but I've seen better." A small missile launched from Fett's jetpack. Wade's eyes widened behind his mask. "Okay, that's new. That's definitely new." He threw himself sideways as the missile hit where he'd been standing, exploding in a concussive blast that sent other spectators scrambling. Wade rolled through the smoke, came up running, and leaped straight at Fett with both katanas extended. Fett cut his jetpack, dropping like a stone and letting Wade sail over him. As Wade passed, Fett grabbed his ankle and used the momentum to slam him into the ground. Hard. Wade's spine made concerning noises. His legs went briefly numb. The healing factor screamed into overdrive. "Okay," Wade groaned from the floor, "that was actually pretty good. You've done this before." Fett landed beside him, pointing his blaster at Wade's head. "Yield." Wade looked up at the Mandalorian, then at the blaster, then back at Fett. He grinned behind his mask. "You know what? Sure. You win this round." He raised his hands in surrender. "But only because I like you. Also because my spine is currently resembling a jigsaw puzzle, and I need another few seconds to put it back together." Fett kept the blaster trained on him, but there was something new in his posture. Respect, maybe. Or, at least recognition that Wade was more than just another loudmouth with delusions of competence. "You fight well," Fett said, "but you talk too much." "Yeah, I get that a lot." Wade sat up, his spine crackling back into place in a way that made several onlookers wince. "It's a coping mechanism. That and the constant pain from my cancer-ridden body eating itself, while simultaneously regenerating. But we don't have time to unpack all that trauma right now." Jabba laughed, a deep, rolling sound that made the floor vibrate. C-3PO translated. "His Excellency is pleased. He says you are either very brave or very stupid, and both qualities are useful. He will keep you in his service." Wade stood, dusting himself off. "See? I told you I was good at job interviews." Fett holstered his blaster and turned to discuss business with Jabba, but as he walked past Wade, he paused. "The things you know," Fett said quietly. "Where you're from. We'll talk later." "Looking forward to it, Buckethead," Wade said cheerfully. Then, as Fett walked away, he added in a whisper, "And just so you know, you're one of my favorites. Top 5 characters, easy. Don't tell Han Solo." Boba Fett said nothing, but Wade could have sworn he saw the slightest nod of acknowledgement. As the crowd dispersed and palace life returned to normal, Wade realized something important. He'd just fought one of the most dangerous men in the galaxy and earned his respect. That was power, not the kind that came from strength or weapons, but the kind that came from reputation. And in a galaxy at war, reputation was everything. 3 days later, Wade was starting to understand why everyone in Jabba's palace looked so miserable. The jobs were boring. Seriously? Wade stared at the protocol droid. You want me to stand guard at a spice shipment? That's it? Just stand there. His Excellency believes your unique talents are best utilized in preventing theft, C-3PO explained. The last 3 shipments were raided by Sand people. Your healing abilities make you ideal for being bait. Yeah, I get it. Wade sighed dramatically. This is not how I imagined my Star Wars adventure going. Where are the lightsaber duels? The Death Star trench runs? The dramatic father reveals. I'm afraid I don't understand your references, sir. Nobody does, 3PO. Nobody ever does. The spice warehouse was on the outskirts of Mos Eisley, a squat Duracrete building that radiated criminal enterprise from every blast-scarred wall. Wade spent 4 hours leaning against a crate, tossing a thermal detonator between his hands like a baseball, and contemplating the existential horror of being trapped in a fictional universe that was now somehow real. The Sand people attacked at sunset, their Gatterfee sticks raised and their war cries echoing across the desert. Wade almost thanked them for the distraction. Finally, some action. He pocketed the thermal detonator and drew his katanas. All right, Tuscan raiders, let's see what you've. One of them shot him in the chest with a slug thrower rifle. Wade looked down at the hole in his suit, then at the Sand person, then back at the hole. Okay, Rude. This suit is not cheap. Well, it is cheap actually, but I'm emotionally attached to it. He charged forward, healing factor already closing the wound, and the fight was brief and violent. The Sand people were fierce warriors, but they'd never faced someone who could take a bullet to the chest and keep smiling. When the last one fled into the desert, Wade was standing amid unconscious raiders, barely winded. And that's how it's done. Wade called to the empty air. Take notes, future bounty hunters. Step 1, be unkillable. Step 2, there is no step 2. He was dragging the unconscious Tuscans into a pile when he noticed the ship. It descended from the darkening sky silently, a sleek Imperial shuttle painted in the standard gray and black. Wade watched it land near the warehouse, his instincts screaming warnings. Imperial shuttles didn't just show up at random criminal operations. This was planned. The boarding ramp lowered, and a figure emerged that made Wade's blood run cold despite having seen it 100 times in movies. The armor was white, pristine except for red markings on the shoulder plates. The helmet's face was a black void with angular slits for eyes. An Imperial Inquisitor, one of Vader's personal agents, for hunting down surviving Jedi and Force-sensitive threats. Oh, that's not good, Wade muttered. That's the opposite of good. That's bad. Very bad. The Inquisitor walked toward him with measured steps, a double-bladed lightsaber hilt hanging from their belt. When they spoke, the voice was feminine, cold, and utterly devoid of mercy. You are the one they call Deadpool. Depends on who's asking. Wade kept his tone light, but his hand drifted toward his katanas. If you're a fan, I do autographs. If you're here to kill me, I should warn you that I'm very difficult to keep dead. Lord Vader has sensed a disturbance in the Force, an anomaly, something that should not exist in this galaxy. The Inquisitor circled him slowly, studying him like a specimen. You arrived here 3 days ago through means that defy explanation. You possess knowledge of events you could not possibly know. And most interesting, you cannot be sensed through the Force. Wade's mind raced. He'd forgotten about that detail. In a galaxy where the Force was real, and Sith Lords could sense intentions and futures, being a complete blank spot would definitely draw attention. Okay, first of all, anomaly is a harsh word. I prefer unique individual with unconventional origins. Sounds better on business cards. Wade crossed his arms. Second, I'm just a guy trying to make a living. I'm not bothering any Jedi, not that there are many left, thanks to Order 66, which was super messed up by the way. The Inquisitor's hand moved to her lightsaber. You know about Order 66. You know things no one outside the Empire should know. This confirms you are a threat. Or, Wade said quickly, it confirms I'm someone you want on your side. Think about it. I can't be sensed by the Force, which means I'm invisible to Jedi and Sith alike. I heal from basically anything, which makes me really hard to kill. And I'm already working in the criminal underworld, which gives me access to places the Empire can't easily reach. He spread his hands in offering. I could be useful to you guys. The Empire does not negotiate with anomalies. We eliminate them. The double-bladed lightsaber ignited with that iconic snap hiss, red plasma humming with barely contained energy. Wade had seen lightsabers in movies 1,000 times, but having one pointed at him in real life was genuinely terrifying. That thing could cut through anything, including him. All right, so negotiation is off the table, Wade said, drawing his katanas. But before we do this, I have to ask, do you guys practice the spinning? Because I've seen videos, and there's a lot of spinning involved with those things. Is it practical, or just for intimidation? The Inquisitor attacked without answering. Lightsaber spinning in a deadly arc, Wade dove sideways, feeling the heat as the blade passed inches from his head. It hit a crate behind him, and the Durasteel container split like paper, spilling spice across the floor. Okay, so spinning is definitely intimidating. Wade rolled to his feet, parrying the next strike with both katanas crossed. The lightsaber hit his blades, and nothing happened. Wade stared. The Inquisitor stared. The lightsaber blade was caught between his katanas, held there as if the weapons were made of something more than simple metal. What? Wade started. The Inquisitor pushed forward with the force, sending Wade flying backward through the warehouse wall. He crashed through duracrete and rebar, landing in a heap of rubble outside. His ribs were broken, several of them, and his left arm hung at an angle that was definitely wrong. Okay, Wade groaned, healing factor already working overtime. Okay, force push. That's a thing. I knew that was a thing, but experiencing it is very different from watching it. The Inquisitor stepped through the hole in the wall, lightsaber spinning in that theatrical way Sith loved. Your weapons are unusual, but they will not save you from the power of the dark side. Wade's arm snapped back into place with an audible crack. He stood, katana still somehow intact despite blocking a lightsaber. You know what? I'm starting to think these aren't normal swords. Which raises questions about where Cable got them, but we can deal with that later. He charged, and this time when their blades met, he held his ground. The Inquisitor's eyes widened behind her helmet, visible through the angular slits, as she realized this random mercenary was actually matching her in combat. Impossible, she hissed. You have no force training. No enhancement. How? Years of practice, a healing factor that lets me take risks normal people can't, and a complete disregard for self-preservation. Wade grinned behind his mask. Also, I've watched every lightsaber duel in Star Wars history, so I know all your moves. Spoiler alert, you're about to do a backflip. The Inquisitor did not do a backflip. She did something worse. She used the Force to lift debris from around them and flung it at Wade like a storm of concrete and metal. He twisted and dodged, but there was too much, too fast. A piece of rebar caught him in the shoulder, punching through and pinning him against the warehouse wall. Ow. Ow, ow. Wade grabbed the rebar with his free hand, trying to pull it out. This is not how I wanted to spend my evening. The Inquisitor approached, lightsaber raised for a killing blow. Lord Vader will be interested to examine your corpse. Perhaps your secrets will be revealed in death. Yeah, about that, Wade said, and pressed the button on the thermal detonator he'd been holding in his pinned hand. The explosion was catastrophic. It vaporized the warehouse, sent the Inquisitor flying backward through the air, and left Wade as a charred, barely recognizable mass of burned flesh pinned to a broken wall. For 30 seconds, he was very definitely dead. Then his healing factor kicked into high gear, and Wade Wilson began the agonizing process of regenerating from near-total destruction. Skin crawled across exposed muscle. Organs reformed. His eye regrew in its socket, blinking moisture back into existence. Note to self, he rasped as his lungs finished rebuilding themselves. Thermal detonators at point-blank range are a really bad idea. The Inquisitor was gone, either dead, fled, or buried in rubble. Wade pulled himself off the rebar spike, his body finishing the last repairs, and surveyed the destruction. The warehouse was gone. The spice shipment was definitely gone. Jabba was going to be pissed. But he was alive. Or alive again. Whatever you called it when you regenerated from chunky salsa. Okay, Wade, new plan, he said to himself, limping toward where he'd parked his speeder, which was also destroyed. The Empire knows you exist. The Inquisitors are hunting you. Jabba's gonna want you dead for losing his shipment. This is fine. Everything is fine. He started walking toward the desert, toward the palace, toward whatever came next. This is exactly like my normal life, he muttered, except with more lasers. Jabba did not kill him, which Wade considered a minor miracle. His Excellency is displeased, C-3PO translated, somehow making the understatement sound even more ominous. You destroyed an entire warehouse of spice worth 200,000 credits. The Imperials now know of his operations in that sector, and you used one of his thermal detonators to do it. Wade stood before the throne, covered in sand and dried blood, his suit still regenerating from the burn damage. In my defense, I was fighting an Imperial Inquisitor. You know, one of Vader's personal murder squad? I feel like that context is important. Jabba rumbled something long and angry. The assembled criminals watched with morbid fascination, waiting to see if the Hutt would feed this crazy human to the rancor. His Excellency says that an Inquisitor coming to one of his operations is worse than losing the warehouse. It means the Empire is watching him more closely now. This is your fault. Actually, Wade said, raising a finger, it's kind of your fault for hiring the dimensional anomaly that draws force-sensitive attention. I tried to keep a low profile. Well, no, that's a lie. I've never kept a low profile in my life. But still. Jabba's laugh was cold and calculating. He spoke again, and C-3PO's voice took on a nervous edge. His Excellency has decided on your punishment. You will accompany a smuggling run to Ord Mantell. If you succeed, your debt for the warehouse will be forgiven. If you fail... The droid trailed off meaningfully. Let me guess, rancor food? Worse. His Excellency will sell you to the Empire. Wade felt a chill run down his regenerated spine. Being sold to the Empire meant being delivered to Vader himself. That meant either becoming an experimental subject or facing the Dark Lord in combat. Neither option was particularly appealing. Okay, smuggling run. I can do smuggling runs. Who's the crew? The answer came from behind him. You're looking at her. Wade turned to find a Twi'lek woman leaning against one of the palace pillars, her green skin marked with scars that told stories of hard living. She wore practical spacer gear, flight jacket, blaster on her hip, and an expression that said she'd seen everything the galaxy had to offer and wasn't impressed by any of it. Name's Kiara, she said, pushing off the pillar. I run cargo for Jabba when he needs someone discreet. And before you ask, yes, I know you're the crazy human who survived an Inquisitor. That's the only reason I'm letting you on my ship. Letting me. Wade followed her toward the exit. I thought this was mandatory. It is. For you. I could have said no. Kiara led him through the palace corridors toward the landing pad. But anyone who can regenerate from thermal detonator range is either the luckiest bastard in the galaxy or something more interesting. I'm betting on interesting. Her ship was a modified YT-1300 light freighter, the same model as the Millennium Falcon, though this one was painted in dark blues and grays instead of the iconic silver. Wade stopped dead when he saw it. You have got to be kidding me. What? Kiara looked back at him. Nothing. Just having a moment. Wade climbed the boarding ramp, running his hand along the hull. This is a Corellian light freighter. Fast, durable, perfect for smuggling. Do you have a Wookiee co-pilot? Please tell me you have a Wookiee co-pilot. I have a droid. Kiara gestured to an R4 unit sitting in the cargo bay. His name is Rusty. He's terrible at navigation, but great at complaining. The droid beeped something that definitely sounded like an insult. See, Kiara smiled slightly. He's warming up to you already. The ship named Shadow's Edge lifted off from Tatooine with a smooth rumble that spoke of well-maintained engines. Wade strapped himself into the co-pilot seat as Kiara punched in coordinates for the hyperspace jump. So, Wade said, watching the stars elongate through the cockpit viewport. What are we smuggling? Weapons. Imperial munitions that fell off a supply transport. Kiera pulled back the hyperspace lever, and the galaxy exploded into blue-white light around them. Buyer on Ord Mantell is paying triple standard rate. Should be an easy run. In my experience, nothing that should be easy ever is. Kiera glanced at him. You talk like you've done this before. But Jabba said you're new to the galaxy. New to this galaxy, Wade corrected. Where I'm from, I did jobs like this all the time. Different criminals, same basic concept. Someone wants something moved quietly, they hire people like us. Where you're from? Kiera leaned back in her seat, studying him. You're the anomaly the Imperials are hunting. The one who appeared out of nowhere and knows things he shouldn't. Guilty as charged. Wade unbuckled and stood, restless energy making it impossible to sit still. Want the full story? It's got interdimensional travel, broken technology, and a shocking lack of chimichangas. I want to know why an Inquisitor came after you specifically. Those Force users don't waste time on random smugglers. Wade was quiet for a moment, which was unusual enough that Kiera noticed. Because I'm a blank spot, he said finally. In a galaxy where the Force connects everything, and everyone can theoretically be sensed, I'm nothing. Dead space. It freaks them out. The Force can't sense you? Kiera's eyes widened. That would make you invisible to Jedi and Sith both. Yeah. Which sounds great until you realize it also makes you a mystery they desperately want to solve. Usually by cutting you open and studying the pieces. The hyperspace tunnel rushed past, blue light casting strange shadows in the cockpit. Wade stared out at it, remembering other jumps through other dimensions, other realities where he didn't quite fit. You know what the worst part is, he said quietly. I've been in a lot of universes, met a lot of versions of people I knew. But this one, this galaxy, I only ever experienced it as stories, movies, comics, fiction. He turned to look at Kiera. Now it's real. You're real. And I have no idea what that means. Kiera was silent for a long moment. The Force works in mysterious ways. That's what people say when they can't explain something. Maybe you being here is part of some bigger plan. Or maybe the universe just has a really twisted sense of humor. That too. They traveled through hyperspace for 6 hours, and Wade spent the time exploring the ship and annoying Rusty the droid. The cargo hold contained 40 crates of Imperial blaster rifles, thermal detonators, and what looked like components for a portable shield generator. Enough firepower to equip a small rebel cell or defend a well-fortified position. So who's the buyer? Wade asked when they were an hour out from Ord Mantell. Someone who wants to stay anonymous. Kiera checked their approach vector. Pays and credits, doesn't ask questions, doesn't answer them either. That's not ominous at all. Ord Mantell appeared ahead. A gray-green planet covered in junkyards, industrial sectors, and the kind of cities where people minded their own business for their own survival. They landed at a private docking bay on the outskirts of one such city, the kind of place where customs officials had learned not to look too closely. The buyer was waiting, a human man in nondescript clothing with a blaster under his jacket and the careful eyes of someone who'd survived too many bad deals. You're late, he said. Traffic was murder, Wade quipped. Space traffic. Is that a thing here? Do you guys have space traffic? The buyer ignored him, focusing on Kiera. You have the shipment? 40 crates. Imperial grade, exactly as ordered. Kiera gestured to the cargo hold. Credits first. The buyer pulled out a credit chip, but before he could hand it over, Wade's instincts screamed warning. He noticed it at the same moment Kiera did, the buyer's eyes flicking toward the bay entrance, the subtle tensing of his shoulders. It's a setup, Wade said. Stormtroopers poured into the docking bay from 3 sides, weapons raised. At least 20 of them, with an officer in the back shouting orders. Stand down. You're under arrest for smuggling Imperial property. The buyer dove for cover, revealing he'd been working with the Empire all along. Kiera cursed creatively in RYL and drew her blaster, firing at the nearest trooper. Wade pulled out both pistols, looted from Jabba's armory, and grinned behind his mask. And here I thought this was going to be boring. The firefight was immediate and chaotic. Blaster bolts lit up the docking bay like a deadly light show. Wade dove behind a crate, firing with both weapons and hitting absolutely nothing because his aim was terrible. Note to self, he shouted over the noise, practice shooting more. A bolt caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around. He recovered, healing factor already working, and threw one of his pistols at the nearest trooper's head. It bounced off the helmet with a satisfying clang. Melee attack for the win. Kiera was a much better shot, dropping 3 troopers in rapid succession. Get to the ship. We need to launch now. What about the cargo? Forget the cargo. Move. They ran for the shadow's edge, blaster bolts chasing them up the ramp. Rusty was already warming up the engines, beeping frantically in binary. Wade threw himself into the co-pilot seat as Kiera fired up the repulsors. The ship lifted off with stormtroopers still firing, their bolts scoring the hull, but not penetrating the shields. 2 TIE fighters appeared on the scanner, launched from the nearby Imperial garrison. Oh, come on. Wade stared at the scanner. TIE fighters? Already? We've been here 10 minutes. Welcome to smuggling. Kiera threw the ship into a tight spiral, evading the first barrage of laser fire. Now shut up and shoot back. Wade grabbed the turret controls and immediately proved he was as bad at space combat as he was at regular shooting. His shots went wide, hitting nothing but empty space and possibly a very surprised bird if Ord Mantell had birds. But he kept shooting anyway, filling the space around the TIE fighters with enough firepower that they had to break off their attack run. Kiera used the moment to punch the hyperspace coordinates, and the stars stretched once more into that beautiful blue tunnel of faster-than-light travel. They sat in the silence of hyperspace, both breathing hard. So, Wade said eventually, "That went well." Kiera turned to stare at him, and then, impossibly, she started laughing. Deep, genuine laughter that shook her shoulders. "You're insane," she managed between laughs. "You threw a pistol at a stormtrooper. It worked, didn't it? We lost the cargo, the payment, and now the Empire knows my ship. But we're alive. That counts for something." Kiera shook her head, but she was smiling. "Jabba's going to kill us both." "Probably," Wade agreed. "But hey, at least we'll die having had an adventure. That's got to count for something in this galaxy, right?" As they flew through hyperspace back toward Tatooine and whatever punishment Jabba had waiting, Wade realized something. He was actually enjoying this. The chaos, the danger, the complete unpredictability of it all. Maybe this galaxy wasn't so different from his own after all. Maybe he belonged here more than he'd thought. Jabba did not kill them, which continued Wade's streak of unlikely survival. Instead, the Hutt listened to their report with surprising patience, his massive eyes half-lidded in calculation. When C-3PO finished translating Kiera's explanation of the Imperial ambush, Jabba rumbled something that actually sounded thoughtful. "His Excellency says the Empire is becoming bolder in targeting his operations," the droid translated. "This is the 3rd shipment lost in 2 months. He suspects there is an informant in his organization." Wade perked up. "Oh, a mole hunt. I love mole hunts. Well, no, I hate them actually. They usually end with someone I like being the traitor, but still exciting." Jabba's gaze fixed on Wade with uncomfortable intensity. He spoke again, and C-3PO's voice took on a nervous edge. "His Excellency has decided you will investigate this matter. Your unique status as someone the Force cannot detect makes you ideal for uncovering deception. Those skilled in reading others through the Force will not sense your suspicions." "So I'm a spy now?" Wade looked at Kiera. "Did I just get promoted to spy?" "You got voluntold for the worst job in the palace," Kiera corrected. "Finding an Imperial informant means suspecting everyone. It also means if you're wrong, you'll make a lot of dangerous enemies. And if I'm right, you'll make one very dangerous enemy who's desperate enough to work for the Empire." Wade considered this. "You know what? Fine. I'll do it. But I want full access to palace operations, permission to ask uncomfortable questions, and he turned to Jabba. A private meeting with Boba Fett. The throne room went quiet. Several of Jabba's courtiers exchanged glances. One did not simply request private meetings with the galaxy's most feared bounty hunter. Jabba laughed, that deep rolling sound that made the floor vibrate. He spoke, and C-3PO translated with barely concealed surprise. His Excellency says, if Boba Fett agrees to meet with you, then you may have your meeting. He finds your boldness entertaining. Entertaining. I'll take it. Wade bowed with exaggerated flourish. Just so we're clear, when I find your mole, I get to kill them my way, right? Because I have some creative ideas involving airlocks and creative use of Tuscan Raider masks. His Excellency says you may do as you wish with traitors. Excellent. Wade Wilson, space detective, is on the case. Finding Boba Fett in a palace full of criminals was easier than expected. He was in the armory, inspecting a recently acquired shipment of Mandalorian weapons that had mysteriously appeared after a raid on an Imperial depot. We need to talk, Wade said, leaning against the doorframe. Fett didn't turn around. No, we don't. Yes, we do. Because you've been watching me since I arrived, and I know you have questions. Questions about how I know things I shouldn't. Questions about what I am. That got Fett's attention. The helmet turned slightly, T-visor reflecting Wade's distorted image. I've been hunting targets across the galaxy for years, Fett said carefully. I've seen clones, droids, force users, cyborgs, and things that defy classification. But I've never seen anyone like you. Wade stepped into the armory, closing the door behind him. That's because I'm not from this galaxy. I'm from somewhere else. Somewhere where this, he gestured around. All of this is fiction. Stories. Entertainment. Fiction. Fett's tone was flat, unreadable. I know how insane that sounds. Trust me, I'm having trouble with it too. Wade picked up a Beskad, a traditional Mandalorian short sword, and tested its weight. But it's true. Where I'm from, you're a character in movies. A legend. The son of Jango Fett, the clone template. Survivor of the Sarlacc pit. One of the most feared bounty hunters in galactic history. The Sarlacc, Fett repeated. I've never fallen into the Sarlacc. Not yet. But you will. In a few years, on a job with Jabba at the Great Pit of Carkoon. You'll get knocked in by a blind smuggler with terrible luck and incredible hair. Wade set the sword down. But you'll survive. Because you're Boba Fett, and you don't die easy. The armory was silent except for the hum of the palace's environmental systems. Fett studied Wade for a long moment, and Wade could practically hear the calculations running behind that helmet. If what you say is true, Fett said finally, then you know things about the future. About events that haven't happened yet. Some things. The big ones. But here's the thing about knowing the future. It doesn't matter as much as you'd think. People make choices. Those choices change everything. Just by being here, I'm already changing things. The Inquisitor who came for you. That was because the Empire sensed something wrong. Yep. Apparently, I'm an anomaly in the Force. A blank spot in a galaxy where everyone else is connected to this big cosmic energy field. Wade leaned against the workbench. Which brings me to why I wanted to talk to you. I need advice from someone who's survived this long in a galaxy full of people who can read minds and see the future. You want to know how to stay alive when you can't use the Force. Exactly. You're not Force sensitive. You fought Jedi and Sith and lived. How? Fett was quiet for a moment, then reached up and removed his helmet. Wade had never seen Boba Fett's face in the original trilogy. The helmet always stayed on. But here, in this moment, the bounty hunter revealed a scarred, weathered face that looked older than his years. The face of Jango Fett, aged by hard living and harder choices. By being better than them, Fett said simply. The Force gives Jedi and Sith confidence. Overconfidence. They rely on it like a crutch. They think because they can sense danger, they're untouchable. He set his helmet on the workbench beside Wade. But the Force doesn't make you invincible. A well-placed shot is still a well-placed shot. A trap is still a trap. And if you're smart enough, fast enough and ruthless enough, you can beat them. So, the secret is just being really good at your job. The secret is understanding that the Force is a tool, not a guarantee. Jedi have weaknesses. Sith have weaknesses. Find them. Exploit them. Survive. Fett picked up his helmet again, but didn't put it on. You have an advantage they don't expect. You're invisible to them. Use it. Wade nodded slowly. Thanks. That's actually really helpful. Now answer my question, Fett said. This informant you're hunting for Jabba. Do you already know who it is? No. Whatever's happening here wasn't in the stories I knew. This is new territory. Wade met Fett's eyes. But I'll find them. And when I do, it's going to get messy. It always does. Fett replaced his helmet, becoming the faceless legend once more. One more thing. The Sarlacc. When it happens, how do I survive? Wade grinned behind his mask. Your armor. The Beskar. It's stronger than the Sarlacc's digestive acids. You'll have to fight your way out from the inside, but you'll make it. He paused. Though maybe just avoid sail barges altogether. That's probably the smarter play. I'll keep that in mind. The investigation took 3 days of careful observation, quiet questions, and following suspicious behavior. Wade learned the palace's rhythms, who went where, when, and why. He watched guards change shifts, tracked supply deliveries, and paid attention to who seemed nervous when Imperial patrols passed near Tatooine's orbit. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, Kiara. I've been running shipments for Jabba for 2 years, she told Wade over drinks in one of the palace's lesser-used halls. And I've noticed something. Every time we plan a big operation, there's always one person who asks very specific questions about timing and routes. Who? Bib Fortuna. Wade nearly spit out his drink. The Twi'lek Majordomo? Jabba's right-hand man. He has access to everything. Schedules, contacts, shipment details. And he's always been a little too friendly with Imperial officers when they visit. Kiara leaned closer. I could never prove it. But I've watched him. He's hiding something. Wade thought about it. In the movies, Bib Fortuna had always been portrayed as a slimy, untrustworthy character. The kind of person who'd sell out his own mother for a handful of credits. But being a traitor to Jabba, that took serious desperation or serious stupidity. I need to test this, Wade said. Set up a fake shipment. Big one. Make sure Fortuna knows about it. If he's the mole, the Empire will show up. And if they do, then we'll have a very unpleasant conversation with Jabba's Majordomo. They set the trap carefully. A shipment of rare Alderaanian artifacts, actually just decorative junk purchased from a Jawa trader, scheduled to move through a specific route at a specific time. Kiara made sure to mention it in Fortuna's presence, loudly enough to be overheard, but casual enough not to raise suspicion. The Imperial ambush came exactly as predicted. Wade and Kiara watched from a distance as stormtroopers surrounded the decoy transport, only to find it empty except for worthless trinkets. The Imperial officers' frustrated shouting could be heard even from their hiding spot. That's proof, Kiara said. That's enough for me. Wade stood, cracking his knuckles. Time to have a chat with our friendly neighborhood trader. They found Bib Fortuna in his private quarters, counting credits with the careful attention of someone who'd been skimming from the top for years. He looked up in surprise when Wade kicked the door open. What is the meaning of? Wade crossed the room in 3 strides and slammed Fortuna against the wall, one katana pressed against the Twi'lek's throat. Hi, I'm the palace's new investigator. You might remember me as the crazy human who survived an Inquisitor. Want to know what else I survived? Wade leaned closer. Getting burned to a crisp by a thermal detonator. Getting shot multiple times. Having my spine shattered. So when I tell you that I will make the next 5 minutes the longest, most painful 5 minutes of your entire life if you don't start talking, I need you to understand I'm not exaggerating. Fortuna's eyes were wide with terror. I don't know what you. You're Jabba's informant to the Empire. You've been selling information about shipments, operations, everything. Why? They threatened to kill me. The words tumbled out in a rush. An Inquisitor came months ago. Said I either work for them or they'd expose me to Jabba as incompetent. They'd tell him about the credits I've been stealing. I had no choice. There's always a choice, Wade said coldly. You chose to betray everyone in this palace. People who trusted you. People who relied on you. Please, I can make this right. I'll tell you everything. Names, contacts, how they communicate. Wade looked at Kiara, who stood in the doorway. What do you think? Mercy or justice? Jabba's call, she said. But, personally, traitors deserve what they get. Wade nodded and pulled Fortuna away from the wall. Come on. Let's introduce you to the boss. And maybe the rancor. I hear it's hungry. As they dragged the sobbing Twi'lek through the corridors toward the throne room, Wade felt a strange sense of satisfaction. This wasn't his galaxy, his universe, or his fight. But he was making a difference anyway. Maybe that was enough. Jabba fed Bib Fortuna to the rancor. Wade watched through the grating as the major domo screamed his last, pulled apart by the massive creature's claws with a wet, crunching finality that made even hardened criminals look away. When it was over, Jabba rumbled something that might have been satisfaction or might have been indigestion. Hard to tell with Hutz. His Excellency is pleased with your work, C-3PO translated, sounding relieved. He says you have proven yourself useful beyond expectations. As reward, he offers you a choice. Remain in his permanent employment with increased status, or take your freedom and a ship of your choosing from his collection. Wade stood before the throne, covered in the grime of 3 days' investigation and still processing what he'd just witnessed. In the movies, death was clean, sanitized. Here, it was visceral and permanent. I choose freedom, Wade said finally. No offense to the big guy, but I'm not really a long-term employment kind of person. I get bored easily and tend to blow things up. Jabba laughed, clearly expecting this answer. He spoke again, gesturing toward the hangar. His Excellency says you may choose any ship in his collection, except Slave I, that belongs to Boba Fett. He also grants you one additional boon, his mark of protection. Show it to any of his associates across the Outer Rim, and they will treat you as an honored guest. C-3PO produced a small medallion bearing Jabba's seal. Wade took it, turning it over in his hands. In a galaxy where reputation was currency, having the backing of the most powerful crime lord on Tatooine was valuable. Dangerous, but valuable. Tell Jabba thanks, Wade said, pocketing the medallion. And that I'll definitely be back to cause more trouble. It's kind of my thing. The ship Wade chose was a modified Star Viper-class attack platform, painted matte black with red accents that reminded him of his suit. It was fast, maneuverable, and armed with enough weapons to pick a fight with a small fleet. The previous owner had been a bounty hunter who'd made the mistake of trying to cheat Jabba. His loss was Wade's gain. You sure about this? Kiara asked, watching him run pre-flight checks. Out there on your own. The Empire will be hunting you. So will anyone who hears about the crazy human with the healing factor. Story of my life, Wade said cheerfully, sliding into the pilot's seat. The controls were surprisingly intuitive. Or maybe his muscle memory was adapting faster than expected. Besides, I work better alone. Well, no, that's a lie. I work terribly alone. But I cause less collateral damage, which is probably better for everyone. Where will you go? Wade looked at the star charts, considering his options. The galaxy was huge, thousands of systems, countless worlds, endless possibilities. He could go anywhere, do anything. But there was one place that kept calling to him. One location that felt inevitable. I'm going to find the rebellion, he said. Kiara's eyes widened. That's insane. You'll be painting a target on your back the size of a star destroyer. Yeah, but think about it. The rebels are fighting the Empire. The Empire wants me dead or captured for study. Enemy of my enemy and all that. Wade powered up the engines, feeling the ship hum to life beneath him. Plus, I'm curious. I want to see if the heroes in this galaxy are actually heroic, or if it's all just propaganda and desperation. It's mostly desperation, Kiara said dryly. But there's some heroism mixed in. Enough to keep hope alive, anyway. She stepped back from the ship. May the Force be with you, Wade Wilson. And also with you. That's how it works, right? Wade grinned behind his mask. Stay safe, Kiara. Don't let Jabba work you too hard. Stay alive, Deadpool. Try not to blow up too many Imperial stations. No promises. The Star Viper lifted off from Tatooine's surface, leaving behind the desert world and Jabba's palace. Wade watched the twin suns shrink in his viewport, then punched in coordinates for the Outer Rim territories, where rebel cells were rumored to operate. Hyperspace swallowed him in light. The Mon Calamari Star Cruiser Liberty's dawn hung in the shadow of a dead moon, running silent while its crew repaired damage from a recent skirmish with an Imperial patrol. Inside the ship's war room, Alliance leadership was having a heated debate. "We can't trust every smuggler and mercenary who claims they want to join the cause," argued a human commander with graying hair and the tired eyes of someone who'd seen too many friends die. "Half of them are Imperial spies. The other half are just looking for credits." "But we need bodies," countered a Bothan intelligence officer. "Every day the Empire grows stronger. Every day we lose people. If someone wants to fight, we should at least hear them out." Mon Mothma, the rebellion's civilian leader, raised a hand for silence. "What do we know about this individual?" "Not much," the Bothan admitted. "He appeared on Tatooine 3 weeks ago, origin unknown. Survived combat with an Imperial Inquisitor. Worked briefly for Jabba the Hutt before exposing a traitor in the organization. He's asking for a meeting with Rebel Command." "And you believe he's sincere?" "I believe he's interesting. And possibly very dangerous." The Bothan pulled up a holographic image, grainy security footage of Wade fighting stormtroopers on Ord Mantell. The figure in red moved with impossible speed, shrugging off blaster shots that should have killed him. "He has abilities we don't understand. Some kind of regeneration. And according to our sources, the Force cannot detect him." That got everyone's attention. A being invisible to the Force was either a massive advantage or a terrifying threat, possibly both. "Where is he now?" Mon Mothma asked, requesting permission to land. "His ship is holding position outside our defense perimeter." Mon Mothma was silent for a long moment, weighing risks against potential rewards. Finally, she nodded. "Allow him to land. But have security ready. If this is a trap, I want us prepared." Wade's Star Viper touched down in the Liberty's Dawn's main hangar, surrounded immediately by a dozen rebel soldiers with rifles trained on his ship. He powered down the engines and activated the external comm. "Hi, I'm here for the job fair. Is there a sign-up sheet, or do I just start shooting Imperials and hope someone notices?" The hangar officer, a no-nonsense woman with a major's insignia, approached cautiously. "Step out of the ship slowly. Keep your hands visible." "Ooh, the hostile welcome. I like it. Very professional." Wade opened the cockpit and climbed down, hands raised. "I'm unarmed." "Well, no, that's a lie. I'm very armed. But I'm not going to shoot anybody, unless they shoot first. Then all bets are off." The soldiers tensed, fingers on triggers. Wade could see the fear and suspicion in their eyes. These were people who'd lost too much to trust easily. "I'm here to help," Wade said, dropping the humor for a moment. "The Empire wants me dead or dissected. You guys want the Empire dead, or at least significantly inconvenienced. Seems like we have common ground." "We'll see about that," the Major said. "Follow me. Mon Mothma wants to speak with you." They led him through the ship's corridors, and Wade took it all in with wide eyes. This was the rebellion, the actual rebellion. The corridors were cramped and utilitarian, nothing like the gleaming halls of Imperial Star Destroyers. Everyone he passed looked exhausted but determined, wearing mismatched uniforms and carrying weapons held together with spare parts and hope. It was beautiful. Mon Mothma received him in a small conference room with minimal security, a calculated risk that showed confidence. She studied him with intelligent eyes that had seen through countless deceptions. "You wanted to speak with us," she said simply. "Speak." Wade pulled off his mask, something he rarely did, revealing the scarred, cancer-ravaged face beneath. He wanted her to see him, really see him, when he made his pitch. "My name is Wade Wilson. I'm from another universe where this galaxy, this war, all of you, your stories, fiction. I know that sounds insane, and honestly, I'm still processing it myself. He set his mask on the table. But here's what matters. I know the Empire is evil. I know they blew up Alderaan. I know they hunt down anyone who disagrees with them and crush freedom wherever they find it. And I know you're the only ones fighting back. Why should we trust you? Mon Mothma asked. You worked for Jabba the Hutt. A criminal. Because Jabba paid me, and I needed resources to survive in a galaxy I don't understand. Wade leaned forward. But I exposed his traitor when I could have used that information for myself. I walked away from his employment when I could have stayed safe. I'm here asking to join a rebellion that's outnumbered and outgunned, when I could have run to the unknown regions and hidden. And what do you want in return? Honestly? Purpose. Wade's voice was quiet. Where I'm from, I'm a mercenary. I kill for money. But here, I could be something more. I could actually make a difference. Help people. Fight for something that matters. He gestured to his face. I'm unkillable. Literally. I regenerate from almost anything. That's a weapon you could use against the Empire. Mon Mothma exchanged glances with her officers. Wade could see the calculation happening. The risk versus reward. The potential versus the danger. If we allow you to join, she said carefully, you'll be under constant observation. Any sign of betrayal, any hint that you're working for the Empire, and we will eliminate you. Unkillable or not, there are ways. Fair enough. I'd expect nothing less. And you'll follow orders. The rebellion is not a place for loose cannons or individual glory. We work together or we die separately. Wade thought about all the times he'd ignored orders, gone rogue, caused chaos for the sake of chaos. Then he thought about what the rebellion represented. Hope in a galaxy drowning in darkness. I'll follow orders, he said. Most of the time. Some of the time. I'll try really hard to follow orders. Despite herself, Mon Mothma almost smiled. That will have to do. She stood, extending her hand. Welcome to the rebellion, Wade Wilson. May the Force be with you. Wade shook her hand, feeling the calluses of someone who worked with their hands despite being a senator. And also with you. That's definitely how it works. As they led him away to assigned quarters and begin the integration process, Wade felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Belonging. Maybe not completely, maybe not perfectly, but enough. He was a rebel now. And the Empire had no idea what was coming. The rebellion's first mission for Wade was disappointingly simple. Escort duty. You want me to babysit supplies? Wade stared at the mission briefing like it had personally offended him. I can regenerate from being blown up, and you're sending me to guard back to canisters? Commander Varn, the gray-haired officer from the initial meeting, didn't look sympathetic. You're untested, Wilson. We don't throw untested operatives into high-risk operations. You guard the medical supplies to Tatooine. You prove you can follow orders. Then maybe we give you something more exciting. This is like my first day at Jabba's all over again, Wade muttered. Fine. I'll guard your space medicine. But if we get attacked by pirates or Imperials, I'm taking full credit for the carnage. The transport was a battered GR-75 medium transport, the same type the rebellion used for evacuations. The crew consisted of Wade, a pilot named Jex who looked barely old enough to shave, and enough medical supplies to treat a small army. Which, Wade reflected, was probably the point. They were 4 hours into the journey when the trap sprung. 3 TIE fighters dropped out of hyperspace directly in their path, an ambush that should have been impossible without inside information about their route. Contact. Contact. Jex's voice cracked with panic as he threw the transport into evasive maneuvers. 3 TIEs, attack formation. Wade was already strapping into the gun turret, his hands finding the controls with surprising familiarity. I've got this. Probably. Maybe. The TIE fighters screamed past, green laser fire stitching across the transport shields. Wade tracked the lead fighter, squeezed the trigger, and watched his shots go wide by at least 50 meters. Okay, so space combat is harder than it looks. They're coming around for another pass. Jex shouted. Our shields are at 60%. Wade focused, letting his instincts take over. He'd played enough video games, watched enough space battles. It couldn't be that different, right? Wrong. Very wrong. The second TIE fighter scored a direct hit on the port engine. Alarms screamed throughout the ship as the transport lurched sideways, artificial gravity fluctuating wildly. Engines dead. We're losing power. Jex's panic was escalating toward full-blown terror. We can't outrun them. Then we don't run. Wade unbuckled from the turret and sprinted toward the airlock. How good are your evasive maneuvers? What? Why? Just keep flying and don't ask questions. Wade sealed his mask, grabbed one of the emergency EVA tether cables, and opened the airlock. The vacuum of space tried to suck him out, but the cable held. He crawled along the transport's hull, magnetic boots keeping him attached, until he reached the damaged engine. The third TIE fighter was lining up for a kill shot on the transport's bridge. Wade timed it perfectly, or as perfectly as someone with zero spacewalk experience could. As the TIE screamed past, he jumped. Zero gravity in space meant his trajectory was a straight line. He slammed into the TIE fighter's wing with enough force to dent the solar panel, then grabbed hold with both hands. The pilot inside clearly saw him. The fighter immediately began spinning and rolling, trying to shake him off. This is either the coolest or stupidest thing I've ever done. Wade shouted into his helmet comm, possibly both. He pulled out a thermal detonator, because of course he'd brought a thermal detonator, set it for 5 seconds, and magnetically attached it to the TIE's hull. Then he kicked off as hard as he could, sending himself tumbling through space. The explosion was beautiful. The TIE fighter disintegrated in a ball of flame that instantly died in the vacuum, leaving only debris and frozen atmosphere crystals. Wade was still tumbling through space, no control, no way to orient himself. The tether cable had snapped during his jump. He was going to drift here until his oxygen ran out, watching the stars spin endlessly. Then Jex brought the transport around, matching Wade's tumble, and extended the cargo bay's magnetic grapple. It caught Wade's suit and reeled him in like a fish. Wade floated into the bay, hit the deck plating, and lay there breathing hard while gravity reasserted itself. That was insane. Jex's voice came over the comm. The other 2 TIEs are retreating. I think you scared them off. Good, Wade gasped. Because I am never doing that again. Space is terrifying. They limped to Tatooine on one engine, taking twice as long as planned. The rebel base, there was a collection of prefab structures hidden in grasslands that stretched to the horizon, one of dozens of secret installations scattered across the outer rim. The base commander, a Duros woman named Senna, listened to their report with increasing alarm. An ambush? That means the Empire knew your route. Or got lucky, Wade suggested, though he didn't believe it. Could be coincidence. The rebellion doesn't survive on coincidence. Senna pulled up a tactical display showing recent Imperial activity. This is the 3rd supply run that's been hit in 2 weeks. Someone is leaking information. Wade felt his stomach sink. You've got another traitor. That's what High Command suspects. They sent you here specifically to investigate. Senna studied him with calculating eyes. Because, apparently, you have experience with this kind of thing. Oh, come on. Wade threw up his hands. I just got done hunting one mole. This is becoming my career path. Wade Wilson, professional paranoia inspector. Can you do it or not? Wade thought about Bib Fortuna, about the investigation that had nearly gotten him killed multiple times. He thought about what traitors did to organizations like the Rebellion, people who were already outnumbered and desperate couldn't afford betrayal. Yeah, he said finally. I can do it. But I'm doing it my way, which means people are going to be uncomfortable and probably mad at me. As long as you find the leak, I don't care if they're furious. The investigation took 2 days and involved Wade doing what he did best, being aggressively annoying until someone made a mistake. He questioned everyone on the base, asking seemingly random questions about their history, their families, their reasons for joining the rebellion. He accidentally revealed false information about upcoming operations in casual conversation, then watched to see who asked follow-up questions or seemed too interested. He observed shift changes, noted who spent time alone near communication equipment, and paid special attention to anyone who seemed nervous when Imperial Patrol reports came through. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The base's mechanic, a human woman named Kira, who'd been with the rebellion since the beginning. Wade found her alone in the hangar after hours, working on a speeder bike. Something about the way she moved, furtive, checking over her shoulder, set off his instincts. Working late. Wade asked casually, leaning against a tool rack. Kira jumped, dropping a hydra spanner. You scared me. Sorry. Hazard of being naturally stealthy. Wade picked up the spanner and handed it to her. That's a nice bike. Personal project. Just maintenance. Keeping our equipment running is a full-time job out here. I bet. Not a lot of spare parts when you're hiding from the Empire. Wade watched her hands as she worked. They were shaking slightly. Must be stressful. Always looking over your shoulder, wondering if today's the day the Empire finds you. We all deal with stress. True. But some people deal with it better than others. Wade circled the speeder bike slowly. Some people crack under pressure. Make bad decisions. Decisions they regret but can't take back. Kira's hands stilled on the speeder's controls. What are you saying? I'm saying 3 supply runs have been ambushed in 2 weeks. Someone told the Empire where to find them. Someone with access to base communications and mission schedules. Wade stopped circling, facing her directly. Someone like a mechanic who has a legitimate reason to be in every part of the base. I don't know what you're talking about. But her voice wavered, and Wade knew he'd found his target. Your brother, Wade said quietly. He'd done his research, pulled personnel files. He's an Imperial engineer on the Death Star project. They captured him during a raid 6 months ago. And they told you that if you feed them information, they won't execute him for rebel connections. Kira's face crumbled. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she collapsed onto a crate, all the strength draining out of her. They said they'd kill him, she sobbed. They showed me recordings of him being tortured. Said it would stop if I cooperated. I didn't want to. I believe in the rebellion. I believe in what we're fighting for. But he's my brother. He's all the family I have left. Wade felt the anger building, but not at Kira. At the Empire. At a system so cruel it would torture a man to force his sister into betrayal. At the impossible choices people were forced to make in a galaxy at war. How many people died because of the information you gave them? He asked. I don't know. Kira's voice was barely a whisper. They never told me. I sent them the routes, the timing. I tried to warn people when I could. But they died anyway. Kira nodded, still crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Wade wanted to rage at her, to tell her that her brother's life wasn't worth the lives of all those rebel pilots and crew. But he'd been in impossible situations himself. He'd made terrible choices for people he loved. Who was he to judge? The Empire is lying to you, Wade said finally. Your brother is already dead. They don't keep prisoners like that alive. It's too expensive, too risky. They showed you those recordings to manipulate you. They probably killed him months ago. Kira's sobs became wails of anguish. Wade let her cry, waiting until the storm passed. What happens now? She asked eventually. Now you come with me to Commander Senna. You tell her everything. Every bit of information you passed, every contact you made with the Empire. And then, Wade sighed. Then it's up to the rebellion to decide what justice looks like. They'll execute me. Probably. Yeah. Wade didn't sugarcoat it. But at least you'll die knowing you told the truth at the end. That counts for something. Commander Senna listened to Kira's confession with a stone face. When it was done, she had the mechanic taken into custody, then turned to Wade. Good work. High Command will want a full report. What'll happen to her? Wade asked, though he already knew. Military tribunal. Then execution, most likely. She gave information that led to rebel deaths. The rebellion can't afford mercy for traitors, no matter their reasons. Senna's expression softened slightly. I know that's not what you wanted to hear. No, it's not. Wade thought about Kira, about her brother, about all the small tragedies that made up this war. But I get it. You guys are fighting for survival. Can't show weakness. That's the reality of rebellion. It's not noble or heroic. It's brutal and desperate, and we do terrible things because the alternative is letting the Empire win. Wade nodded slowly, feeling the weight of this galaxy settling onto his shoulders. This wasn't a movie or a story anymore. These were real people making impossible choices, dying for beliefs they'd never see realized. And he was part of it now, for better or worse. "What's my next assignment?" he asked. Senna smiled grimly. "How do you feel about raiding an Imperial supply depot?" Finally, Wade grinned behind his mask. "Something fun." The Imperial supply depot on Lot Hal was supposed to be lightly guarded. 3 dozen stormtroopers, some support staff, standard defensive turrets. Intelligence said it contained weapons, armor, and most importantly, fuel cells the rebellion desperately needed. The plan was simple: hit fast, steal what they could carry, and jump to hyperspace before reinforcements arrived. Wade should have known better than to trust simple plans. The strike team consisted of 8 rebels, including Wade. They approached the depot in a stolen Imperial shuttle, using forged clearance codes that should have gotten them through the perimeter without issue. Should have. Clearance codes rejected. The tower controller's voice crackled over the comm: "Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." "Well, that's not ideal," Wade said from the co-pilot seat. Plan B. Commander Varn, leading the mission, cursed creatively. "We go loud. Hit them before they can lock down the depot." The shuttle's weapons opened up on the control tower, reducing it to twisted metal and flames. Alarms screamed across the compound as stormtroopers poured out of barracks, and the defensive turrets swiveled to track their ship. "This is why I don't trust intelligence reports," Wade shouted as they set down hard in the depot's central courtyard. "Lightly guarded," they said. "Easy job," they said. The boarding ramp dropped, and Wade was first out, both pistols firing. His aim was still terrible, but volume of fire compensated for accuracy. 3 stormtroopers went down, 1 from Wade's shots, 2 from friendly rebel fire, 1 from tripping over his own feet in the chaos. "Fuel depot is north side," Varn shouted, pointing toward a large warehouse. "Move." They ran through a storm of blaster fire, Wade taking hits that would have killed anyone else. A bolt caught him in the thigh, spinning him around. Another hit his shoulder, burning through suit and flesh. He kept running, healing factor already knitting tissue even as more bolts found their mark. "You know what I just realized?" Wade shouted to no one in particular. "Getting shot hurts. Like really hurts. Just because I heal doesn't mean it doesn't OW." Another bolt hit his side. "Stop shooting me." They reached the warehouse, and Wade kicked the door in with more force than necessary. Inside were rows upon rows of fuel cells, enough to power a small fleet. The rebels immediately began loading them onto repulsor sleds. That's when Wade heard it, a sound that made his blood run cold despite having never heard it in person before. A mechanical breathing, deep and rhythmic, echoing through the depot. "No," Wade whispered. No, it's too early. He shouldn't be here. This isn't how it goes." Darth Vader stepped into view at the far end of the warehouse. The Dark Lord stood 7 feet tall in his black armor, cape billowing despite the lack of wind. The red lenses of his helmet fixed on Wade with terrible intensity. When Vader spoke, his voice was deep and synthesized, carrying the weight of absolute authority. "The anomaly," Vader said. At last, every rebel in the warehouse froze. They all knew what Darth Vader meant: death. The Sith Lord who'd personally led the purge of the Jedi, who commanded the Imperial fleet, who served as the Emperor's right hand of terror. Wade's mouth went dry. "Okay, new plan. Everyone run. Now. I'll buy you time." "We're not leaving you," Varn protested. "Yes, you are. Because if you stay, you die. And the rebellion needs those fuel cells more than it needs me." Wade drew his katanas, stepping forward to put himself between Vader and the others. "Now go." The rebels hesitated for only a moment, then began hauling the fuel cells toward their shuttle. Vader raised one hand, and Wade felt the force grip his throat, not choking him yet, just holding him in place. "You cannot be sensed," Vader observed, tilting his head slightly. "An absence in the force. A void where something should exist." He clenched his fist, and Wade felt the pressure increase on his windpipe. The Emperor will be most interested in studying this phenomenon. Wade couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, but he could still move his hands. He threw one of his katanas at Vader like a javelin. The blade flew true, aimed directly at the Dark Lord's chest. Vader didn't even move. The sword simply stopped in midair, caught by the Force, hovering inches from his armor. He examined it with casual interest. Interesting. These weapons resisted a lightsaber. Not Beskar. Something else. Vader let the katana clatter to the ground. You will tell me where you acquired them, after we bring you to the Emperor. Wade grabbed at his throat with both hands, trying to break the invisible grip. His healing factor was working overtime, repairing the crushed tissue even as Vader damaged it, but the sensation was agonizing. Behind Vader, the warehouse door exploded inward. Boba Fett stepped through the smoke, flamethrower gauntlet already ignited. Lord Vader, Fett said calmly, the bounty on this wand belongs to me. Vader turned slightly, his attention divided. You dare interrupt. It was the opening Wade needed. He pulled out a thermal detonator with one hand, set it, and threw it at the fuel cells stacked nearby. Vader sensed the danger immediately, releasing Wade to extend both hands toward the explosive. The Force held the detonator suspended in midair, 3 feet from the fuel cells. Wade could see Vader concentrating, could feel the power radiating from the Dark Lord as he prepared to fling the detonator safely away. Then Boba Fett shot it. The explosion was immediate and catastrophic. 20 fuel cells detonated simultaneously, creating a blast wave that vaporized everything within 50 meters. Wade was thrown backward through the warehouse wall, his body breaking in multiple places before the healing factor could compensate. When he came to, seconds or minutes later, impossible to tell, the warehouse was an inferno. Alarms screamed across the depot. Through the smoke and flames, Wade saw a black-caped figure walking calmly through the destruction, completely unharmed. The Force had protected Vader from the worst of it. Run. Fett's voice crackled in Wade's ear. The bounty hunter was somewhere nearby, must have planted a tracker on him. North exit. Now. Wade ran. His legs weren't fully healed, and one ankle kept collapsing under his weight, but he ran anyway. Behind him, he could hear Vader's mechanical breathing getting closer. A hand grabbed his arm and yanked him into a maintenance tunnel. Boba Fett's helmeted face appeared in the darkness. This way. I know these facilities. Why are you helping me? Wade gasped, still healing. Because I don't work for free, and dead bounties are worth less than living ones. Fett pulled him through the tunnel system with professional efficiency. Also, you interest me. I want to understand what you are before I decide whether to turn you in. They emerged into a storage yard where Slave I sat waiting, its engines already warming up. The rebel shuttle was gone. Good, they'd escaped with the fuel. Fett pushed Wade toward his ship. Get in. We're leaving before Vader decides we're worth pursuing. Wade climbed the boarding ramp, collapsing into one of the prisoner restraint seats. Fett took a pilot's chair, and Slave I lifted off with that distinctive whine of Mandalorian engineering. Through the viewport, Wade could see Vader standing in the depot's ruins, watching them go. For a moment, he thought the Dark Lord would pursue. Then Vader simply turned away, dismissing them as beneath his immediate concern. He let us go, Wade realized. He knows he'll find you again, Fett said, punching in hyperspace coordinates. Vader is patient. He'll wait until the moment is right. The stars stretched into hyperspace, and Wade felt the tension drain from his body. He'd just faced Darth Vader and survived. Barely. Only because Boba Fett had intervened at the perfect moment. Thank you, Wade said quietly. Fett's helmet turned slightly, the T-visor reflecting Wade's battered appearance. You mentioned the Sarlacc. Told me how to survive it. Consider this payment for information received. Where are we going? Somewhere the Empire won't look. I have a contact on Bespin, Cloud City. You can lay low there while you heal. Fett paused. Then we're going to have a very long conversation about what you know, what you are, and what the hell you're doing in this galaxy. Wade laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. You know what? That sounds great. Because I've been here for weeks, and I still have no idea what I'm doing. At least you're honest about it. They traveled through hyperspace in silence, and Wade closed his eyes, letting the healing factor finish its work. His body repaired itself, bones knitting, organs regenerating, skin closing over burns. But his mind was racing with the implications. Vader knew about him now. The Emperor would soon know too. The Empire would be hunting him with everything they had, not just as a rebel, but as something they didn't understand. Something that threatened their understanding of the Force itself. And somehow, impossibly, Wade Wilson had become important to the fate of this galaxy. This is not how I expected my interdimensional vacation to go, he muttered. Fett made a sound that might have been a laugh. Welcome to the war, Deadpool. It only gets worse from here. Great, Wade said. Just great. But despite everything, despite the pain, the fear, the knowledge that Darth Vader himself was now hunting him, Wade couldn't help but feel a strange sense of excitement. This was it. This was real. And he was right in the middle of the biggest story ever told. Now, he just had to survive it. Cloud City floated above the gas giant Bespin like a jewel suspended in amber light. Wade watched it grow larger in Slave Eye's viewport, marveling at the engineering that kept an entire city aloft in a planet's upper atmosphere. Somewhere down there, he knew, Lando Calrissian was probably charming someone out of their credits. But that was a story for another time. My contact runs a repair shop in the industrial sector, Fett explained as they descended toward one of the city's lower landing platforms. He owes me several favors. You'll be safe there for a few days. And then you decide what you want to do. Stay with the rebellion and keep painting targets on your back, go back to mercenary work, or disappear into the unknown regions and hope the Empire forgets about you. Wade snorted. Option 3 sounds smart, which means I definitely won't choose it. They landed on a grimy platform far from the tourist sectors, where the city's maintenance happened and polite society didn't look too closely. Fett's contact, a basilisk with 4 arms and a cybernetic eye, greeted them with gruff familiarity. Fett, heard you were dead. Rumors of my death are frequently exaggerated, Fett replied. I need a place for my associate to recover. Quiet. No questions. The basilisk looked Wade over with his natural eye and his cybernetic one. He looks like he got chewed up by a rancor and spit out. Worse. Darth Vader. That got a whistle of respect. Anyone who survives Vader earns my hospitality. Come on, Red. I'll set you up in the back room. Wade spent 3 days in Cloud City, healing and thinking. His body recovered quickly. The healing factor was working better than ever, possibly enhanced by midichlorians he didn't fully understand. But his mind was restless, turning over everything that had happened. He'd joined the rebellion. He'd faced Vader. He'd been saved by Boba Fett. And somehow, impossibly, he'd become a piece on a galactic chessboard he'd only ever seen from the outside. On the 4th day, Fett returned with news. The rebellion wants you back, he said, sitting down across from Wade in the cramped back room. They've sent out coded messages through their networks. Apparently your stunt at the depot gave them time to escape with enough fuel to power their fleet for months. They're calling you a hero. A hero. Wade laughed bitterly. I got lucky. If you hadn't shown up, Vader would have me in an Imperial lab right now, getting dissected like a particularly interesting frog. Luck is a skill in this galaxy. Fett leaned back, arms crossed. But I didn't come here to talk about the rebellion's gratitude. I came to ask you something I've been thinking about since Tatooine. Shoot. You know the future. Or a version of it. You know how events are supposed to play out. Fett's helmet tilted slightly. Do the rebels win? Wade was quiet for a long moment. He thought about the original trilogy, about Luke and Leia, about the Death Star exploding and the Empire falling. But he also thought about how much he'd already changed. His presence had altered events, drawn attention, created ripples in the timeline. In the story I knew, Wade said carefully, yes, the rebellion wins. The Empire falls. But it takes years, and a lot of people die. And it only happens because of a farm boy from Tatooine who happens to be Darth Vader's son. Fett went very still. Vader has a son? Yeah. Named Luke Skywalker. He's the one who destroys the Death Star, redeems Vader, and helps topple the Empire. Wade paused. But that was the story I knew. I don't know if that's how it works here. My being here might have changed everything. A farm boy, Fett repeated. On Tatooine. I know that name. Skywalker. The moisture farmer family near the Jundland Wastes. That's them. But Fett. Wade leaned forward urgently. You can't tell the Empire. If Vader finds out about Luke before the right time, everything falls apart. The rebellion loses. The Emperor wins. The galaxy stays under Imperial control forever. And you care about this galaxy? Fett's tone was skeptical. You're not from here. You could leave, find a way back to your universe. Why stay? Because... Wade struggled to put it into words. Because I've spent my whole life being a joke. A punchline. The crazy mercenary who can't die and won't shut up. But here, I could actually matter. I could help people. Make a difference. He gestured around them. This galaxy is real now. You're real. The people suffering under the Empire are real. How can I just walk away from that? Fett was silent for what felt like an eternity. Then he stood, walked to the window, and looked out at Cloud City's endless expanse. I'm a hunter, he said finally. I take contracts, complete jobs, collect payment. I don't choose sides in galactic wars. But, he turned back to Wade. The Empire pays well, but they're also the reason my father died. They used him to create an army of slaves, then discarded his legacy when it was convenient. So what are you saying? I'm saying I won't tell the Empire about Skywalker, and I won't turn you in, despite the bounty they've placed on you. Consider it professional courtesy between two people who don't quite fit in this galaxy. Wade felt something shift in his chest. Gratitude, maybe, or recognition that even in a universe not his own, he could still make connections that mattered. Thank you, Fett. Don't thank me yet. The Empire will keep hunting you. Vader won't stop until he understands what you are. And Inquisitors, Fett shook his head. They're fanatics. They'll burn through entire star systems to find you. So what do? You become better at surviving than they are at hunting. Fett pulled out a small datapad and handed it to Wade. These are the locations of safe houses across the Outer Rim. Places even the Empire doesn't know about. Use them when you need to disappear. Wade took the datapad, turning it over in his hands. Why are you helping me this much? Because you're interesting. And in a galaxy full of predictable people following predictable patterns, interesting is valuable. Fett moved toward the door. Also, I want to see how this story ends. The one where a man from another universe changes the fate of ours. He left without another word, disappearing into Cloud City's crowds with the practiced ease of someone who'd spent a lifetime avoiding attention. Wade returned to the rebellion a week later, arriving at a secret base on Tatooine in his modified Star Viper. The rebels greeted him like a returning hero, cheers, gratitude, stories of his battle with Vader already becoming legend. Mon Mothma summoned him to her office almost immediately. You've caused quite a stir, she said, without preamble. The Empire has placed a substantial bounty on your head. Every hunter in the galaxy will be looking for you. Story of my life, Wade quipped. Literally. This is just my regular Tuesday in any universe. This is serious, Wade. Your continued presence with us puts every base, every operation at risk. The Empire is now specifically targeting locations where you've been spotted. Wade's humor faded. You want me to leave? I want you to understand what you're asking us to risk by staying. Mon Mothma's expression was grave, but not unkind. You're brave, capable, and you've already proven your value. But you're also a magnet for Imperial attention. So what are you saying? I'm out. I'm saying you have a choice. You can remain with the rebellion as a field operative, taking high-risk solo missions where your unique abilities are most useful. Or you can work with us as an independent contractor, helping when called but maintaining distance to protect both yourself and our organization. Wade thought about it. About Kira the mechanic, about the rebels who died because of leaked information, about the constant weight of responsibility that came with being part of something bigger than himself. Independent contractor, he said finally. I work better alone anyway. Less chance of getting people killed when I do something stupid. Mon Mothma nodded as if she'd expected this answer. Then here's your first assignment. The Empire is moving a high-value prisoner to an interrogation facility on Wobani. We don't know who they are, but intelligence suggests they have information about Project Stardust, the Death Star's construction. We need that prisoner extracted. A prison break. Solo operation. Wade grinned behind his mask. Now we're talking. When do I leave? Immediately. Your ship is being loaded with supplies and equipment as we speak. She handed him a datapad with mission details. May the Force be with you, Wade Wilson. And remember, you're not expendable, no matter what you might think. Come back alive. I always do. Eventually. Wade stood in his ship's cockpit, looking out at the stars as the hyperdrive charged. He thought about everything that had happened since that dimensional rift had dumped him into this galaxy. The criminals, the Empire, the Rebellion, Boba Fett and Mon Mothma, and all the people caught between tyranny and hope. He thought about Darth Vader, about the Dark Lord who now knew he existed and wouldn't rest until he was captured or killed. And he thought about the future, the story he knew and the story he was now helping to write. Two narratives colliding, creating something new and unpredictable. Okay, universe, Wade said to the empty cockpit. You dropped me into Star Wars. You made me part of this story. So let's see what happens when the merc with a mouth meets the galaxy far, far away. He pulled back the hyperspace lever, and the stars stretched into infinity. Somewhere out there, Luke Skywalker was still a farm boy dreaming of adventure. Leia Organa was still a senator fighting for her people. Han Solo was still smuggling cargo and avoiding Imperial entanglements. The pieces of the original story were all still in place. But now there was something new. Something the Emperor hadn't foreseen, that the Force couldn't predict, that no prophecy had mentioned. There was Wade Wilson, Deadpool, the anomaly. And he was going to make this galaxy very, very interesting. The Shadow's Edge disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind only the echo of engines and the promise of chaos to come. The galaxy far, far away had seen countless heroes and villains, Jedi and Sith, rebels and tyrants. It had weathered wars that spanned millennia and conflicts that reshaped civilizations. But it had never seen anything quite like Wade Wilson. In the months that followed his arrival, stories began to spread across the Outer Rim. Tales of a mercenary in red who couldn't be killed, who spoke to invisible audiences, who fought with skills that defied explanation. Some said he was a Force user unlike any other. Some said he was a weapon created by the Rebellion. Some said he was insane, blessed, cursed, or all three at once. The truth, as always, was more complicated. Wade continued his work with the Rebellion, taking missions that would have been suicide runs for anyone else. He rescued prisoners from Imperial facilities, sabotaged supply lines, and left trails of chaos in his wake that confounded military tacticians on both sides of the war. He made allies in unexpected places and enemies in even more unexpected ones. Darth Vader continued to hunt him, but Wade had learned to be smarter, faster, always one step ahead. Boba Fett watched from the shadows, occasionally intervening when things got too dangerous. Their strange partnership built on mutual respect and shared outsider status. And somewhere on Tatooine, a farm boy named Luke Skywalker continued to dream of stars, unaware that his destiny was already being shaped by forces beyond his understanding. Unaware that a man from another universe was fighting to ensure that destiny could still come to pass. The Force moved in mysterious ways, connecting all living things in an endless dance of light and dark, hope and despair, destiny and choice. And now, impossibly, it flowed around Wade Wilson, not through him, but around him, acknowledging his presence even as it couldn't comprehend his nature. He was the anomaly, the variable, the element that didn't belong, but somehow fit perfectly into the gaps of a story everyone thought they knew. The Empire would fall, eventually. The rebellion would triumph, probably. The Skywalker legacy would unfold as it was meant to, maybe. But none of it would happen quite the way anyone expected. Because Wade Wilson was here now, and he'd never been very good at following scripts, even cosmic ones. In a galaxy defined by destiny and prophecy, he was gloriously, chaotically free. And that freedom, more than any weapon or force power, might just be enough to tip the scales. The war was far from over. The Death Star still loomed in the Empire's plans. The Emperor still schemed from his throne on Coruscant. Vader still hunted those who threatened his master's vision. But now they had to contend with something new, something unpredictable. They had to contend with Deadpool. And the galaxy would never be quite the same.